Seems like the safest thing to be doing. Welcome back to my garage. This week we're taking the engine out of my experimental dyno. We're putting it in a frame and we're gonna start testing it on my good old inertia dyno. First we'll need to get that dyno up and running again and communicating with your dyno box. A great opportunity to test my death trap. Let's reinstall the carb which I borrowed for my engine build and see if this starts. It's been almost a year since I started it last time. I think I was running a 115 jet and the needle at the leanest position. We'll start with that and see if it starts and runs. Then we'll make the dyno work, do a coast down run and correct for roller resistance and stuff, and we're ready for testing. When we've got some numbers from this bike, I'm planning to take it to some friends who's in possession of a commercial dyno unit, a known good dyno, and we can compare the results and adjust accordingly. I have to force myself to do some tidying up here now. It's getting out of hand. Let's see if it starts. As I said, it's been sitting for almost a year, and also the cooling system is full of pure water. And it didn't occur to me until now that I probably should have drained it out or added in some antifreeze when it's been sitting throughout the winter in sub-zero conditions. Let's hope nothing is cracked and leaking. Perfect! We'll have to relocate the exhaust extraction system. These are the internal ratios of the Derby gearbox, and we're running a 11 front sprocket and a 36 rear sprocket. The rear wheel has a circumference of 1585 millimeters. The roller has a circumference of 986 millimeters. This is a ratio of 0.492. Sixth, 0.514. I've never had this roller up to higher than 4,800 RPM, and that was scary. So sixth gear is out of the question. Must have done something wrong here. That leaves me between first and second gear. It doesn't seem right. I'm an idiot. I forgot to add in the primary drive. Its ratio is 0.286. That's more like it. Now we can use sixth gear, and 3,000 RPM would equate like 20,500 RPM from the engine, which it can't achieve. Perfect. Sixth gear it is. We'll plug this ratio into the dyno software. It won't accept more than 2 decimal places. I had to use 115, so it's not completely accurate. Good enough for now. Let's flip the screen around so that I can see it, and I'll bring the keyboard with me on the bike, and let's see what happens. There's nowhere to put my arms. I was out walking the other day, and I saw some toddlers playing on the highway, totally unaware of the imminent death that was a runaway truck coming their way. Just as the unspeakable was to happen, someone jumped out into the road, grabbed them and rolled onto the pavement, saving them, the toddlers. You've probably guessed who that toddler saving hero was. NordVPN. My partnership with NordVPN go way back. They're probably the longest time supporters of this channel. Yet again, they're supporting the madness by sponsoring a video. Thank you. Check them out at the link. Toddler saving heroes as they are, they're probably more known for keeping you safe from online threats, surveillance and censorship by creating that encrypted tunnel for your data to travel in so no one can spy on it and steal your stuff. I could talk forever about all the features, how fast they are, the fastest actually. You won't notice a difference when you turn on the VPN. Easy to use with just a single click. Ta-da! About NordPass for safe password keeping and NordLocker's encrypted cloud storage. How they protect you against man-in-the-middle attacks, phishing, malware, malvertising, password attacks, DDoS, ransomware, etc. All of this, but I want to focus on my favorite feature. I talk about this a lot, I know. While all that protection is going on in the background, you can take advantage of NordVPN's 5,000 plus servers around the world to pretend you're from whatever country you choose. This comes in handy because you can watch shows, series, movies, play games and stuff that are not available where you live or where you're traveling to, or stuff that's available at home but not where you're traveling. You can log back into home and pretend you're there. I'm in Mexico now. Now I'm in Iceland or Japan. You can even get cheap flights by pretending you're from a poorer country than what you're really from. NordVPN is celebrating their 11th anniversary. Head to nordvpn.com/twostrokestuffing for an exclusive birthday deal. Plus an extra gift on top of that. Risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Thank you, NordVPN. Wish you could do something about this mess though. Maybe an upcoming feature. Something to think about. You can't help but be amazed by the simplicity of an inertia dyno. We're getting great results from the get-go here, as opposed to how things are going with my experimental brake dyno. Here's the graph from that last run after I fixed the gear ratio. I had put it in the wrong way around. This one's not correct either, because I added up the numbers with this being 1 meter long. Actually, it's 1.5 meter. And the gear ratio is not 6.8, it's 5.18. We're gonna fix that now, then do a couple of more runs. Well, here's 2 runs with the correct gear ratio. Peak power is sitting somewhere between 10 and 12,000 RPM. There's a dip here. Neither jetting nor ignition timing is optimized in any way on this bike. I just made it run okay last year, and that's how it's sitting now. Almost 12 horsepower at the wheel. There's more though. We need to correct for the friction, the drag of the roller alone. We need to bring it up to speed, lift the bike off the roller, and then let it coast down and measure the losses. Seems like the safest thing to be doing. I think I'll tie this up somewhere up there so it won't get caught in the roller. And let's pray to God it doesn't fall off here and get caught up down there. Coast down run was a success. The strap did not get tangled up in the dyno and kill me. We were close though. I've taken the torque numbers from the roller coasting down undisturbed, and I've plotted them into internal dyno losses here. I've loaded the raw log file from one of the runs from yesterday and rerun it. And here you can see the difference in results. The black line is without correction and the green line is with roller loss removed from the readings. We're actually up at around 13 horsepower at the wheel. Our main objective now is to put my home-built engine into the frame and start testing that. But this is a lot of fun. I think we'll do a couple more runs today as a baseline, and then we'll switch out the fuel in the tank. That fuel has been sitting in that vented tank for over 1.5 years. I said almost a year yesterday. Thinking about it, it's actually over 1.5 years. Probably pretty stale, even though it is the good stuff, the 115 octane leaded race fuel. It'll be interesting to see if we can spot a difference between the fresh fuel and the old fuel. Same oil. Pitch saturated pine. Need to get one of those wall mounts for the monitor. Have to stay down there for the moment. 3 runs with the old fuel, and then we'll switch it out for the new fuel and see what happens. We'll dump out the old fuel and replace it with fresh fuel and see if there's any difference. Fresh fuel straight from the drum, same oil and same oil content. Here are the 3 runs from today with the old fuel. You can see that dip at around 11,000 RPM. It's getting progressively worse as the engine is heating up. Could indicate that it's running too rich, maybe too much timing. So when the engine is getting hotter, things burn faster. Firing too early and peak pressure occurs too early in the cycle. Same thing goes for it not revving more than 12,500 RPM. I think we're running too much timing. And it's much safer trying to retard timing than it is trying to lean it down. Here's the graphs for the new fuel overlaid. Pretty much the same. The dip isn't as exaggerated. These runs are with new fuel, coldest engine, a little bit hotter, and a little bit hotter. Here are the old fuel graphs. Coldest engine, probably colder than the coldest with the new fuel, then a little bit hotter and hotter still. Actually a bigger dip compared to the new fuel. The new fuel should have more fast burning stuff left in it. Maybe there's not enough timing. Could be. It's easy enough to find out. Let's retard timing and see what happens. I forgot to change the timing. Got the screen mounted. Not much of a difference with less timing. Might be a slight shift towards higher RPM, but it's hard to say. The dip is still there. You can see how the curve is slightly shifted. The dip is definitely still there. We'll leave timing as it is now. More retarded, should be safer. We'll try adding in some more fuel first to see what happens, and then take out some fuel. Tomorrow, I'm running out of time. This is fun, isn't it? Finally something's working. The seat for the plug is kind of recessed down there, and I'm not sure if I can make this seat. Well, I think I can. Torque it down and see if it conforms. It looks like it will. Yeah, that'll work. I'll replace the plug while we're at it. Went through a lot of running far too rich while I was tuning it last year. There's a 115 main jet in there now. Let's try a 120 and see if it wants more fuel. I would have installed my EGT probe if it weren't for that it's broken. That would give us more hints as to what the engine needed. The dyno will show us what's going on soon enough though. I think this was the 120. It's one of those with that's a 130. The markings aren't that clear. I'll have to pick up the reading glasses. 120. Old people. First runs of the day, 120 main jet. As you would expect, the first cold run was more powerful. We were actually touching 15 horsepower there. And the pipe was cold, so it wouldn't rev higher than 11,600 RPM or so. No dip in the power band though. Next run, 10 degrees hotter, revving higher, not as much power. And then next run, revving even higher, but even less power, down to 12 horsepower. And here are the runs from yesterday with a 115 jet. Let's just do the third one for each session. You can see with the smaller jet there's much more of a dip here, but power is also higher. Unfortunately, I haven't got any temperature data for that run. Looks to be running better in some ways with the larger main jet. Not as much of a dip in the power band. Less power though, also worse. We're gonna check where timing is sitting now and see if it's sitting at some ridiculous number. If so, we'll adjust it to something more sensible. If not, we'll adjust it regardless to something else than what it's at now. There's a fairly dark ring at the bottom of the ceramic. It indicates it's getting enough fuel, probably too much. The plug looks to be a little bit too cold. It's burnt like halfway around. Can't see that characteristic heat transition on the ground strap. Might mean timing is a bit off. 1.85 millimeters before top dead center. It's like 22.5 degrees. And in this graph, it starts off at like 14 degrees. I have to shift everything by 8.5 degrees. From 8,000 to 12,000 RPM, 19.5. If fueling and compression is okay, that seems far too much. Try retarding it 3.5 degrees, see if that helps. From experience, my 50cc engines usually like 15 degrees advance at peak power RPM. Compression and fueling has to be spot on. Now it's starting off at 19 degrees and should be 16 between 8 and 12,000. And then retard down from there. Here are the 4 last runs of the 6 runs I did. Tried to heat soak the engine properly. Power seems to be stabilizing. Kind of disappointing though. Not more than 12 horsepower at the wheel. From this supposed to be 20 horsepower plus engine. Metrakit Pro Race 4. Here's the 3rd run of the 120 jet runs. Pretty much the same thing. The first one before the engine got hot is much higher. But that's not a real number. In contrast, the old engine I built, the one sitting in the land speed bike, produced 18 horsepower at the wheel on the same fuel. And that was through a variator, rebuilt variator. Lossy, probably twice as much transmission loss as with this gearbox. 50cc, this is 77cc. Let's keep timing as it is now, which to me seems like sensible numbers. And let's replace the filter with the velocity stack to lean down the carb a little bit and see what happens. My intake geometry is fairly compromised too. Much better if the carb was closer to the reed valve. The silencer coming loose might have screwed the results a little bit, but here they are. Purple one is with the 120 jet. The green one is 120 jet and a 19 degrees of base advance versus 22.5. Then I'll start adding in the velocity stack runs with 120 jet and 19 degrees of base advance. This is the first one. Second, pretty much the same as the others. Third, fourth, fifth. It looks like when the engine is heating up with the velocity stack, less fuel and more air, it's making more power. Could also be the silencer coming loose, that the stinger is too restrictive, but that seems odd with the numbers we're seeing here. These horsepower numbers would need a really tiny stinger. This pipe has a fairly large one. I'm gonna see if I can move the carb closer to the intake. Replace the longer rubber with this shorter blue one. It has a short, smaller diameter section in it, corresponding to the carb size. Makes it so that there's no step in there. I'll have to massage the frame a slight bit. Wonder if drilling a hole is better. Reattached silencer and shorter intake. Test 1. Revving much better now with the shorter intake. These are the 4 runs I did. That one's the coldest. You can see it's losing power as it's heating up, but then gaining some power again. The black line, that's the last run. Compare it to longer intake. You can see power is pretty much the same, but it keeps on revving as opposed to stopping short at 13,000. Revs to 13.5, which still isn't much though. We're like sniffing 13 horsepower, which isn't much. From 77cc. I thought a 77cc Metro Kit Pro Race with the Yasuni R4 pipe should produce more. And a 28mm carb could be too small. And also the intake is nowhere near perfect yet. It's still long and still at an angle. There's no room in the framer to get a better placement of the carb. I think we'll leave it at that. This is our baseline. This is what we'll bring to that other dyno to confirm this dyno. So this video was meant to be about putting this engine into this frame. But running a functioning bike on a functioning dyno turned out to be too much fun, so that's what we did. Next time, we'll mount this engine in this frame and hope for a reprise of this story, but with this engine. No, this engine in this frame. See you next time.